So this is a special news bulletin, special presentation, whatever you want to call it. This past week, we released 2 episodes, and one of those episodes hit the milestone of episode 300. Now, I know that number is a little wishy-washy because we've had tidbits and we've changed how we number our episodes at some point and yada yada and all the rest of it. But episode 300, we're considering it episode 300, was released on just this past Tuesday as of the release of this. And then we also had episode 301, which was an interview with Puru as well. So this week has been a packed week for not the thread, but the feed, the RSS feed. And so we thought we would do, instead of interrupting our normally scheduled programming as I just outlined, we thought we would do some, thoughts, go through what we think is going on, like some of our highlights of the last 300 episodes, what we're going to be doing moving forward and those type of things. And, some of our pros, cons, disappointments, love, hate, I don't know, whatever else, however other compare and contrast terms you can use. So, Mike, please, sir, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is a big episode. I think our biggest problem, Matt and I, is we don't celebrate the milestones. We keep going, as if, we're not satisfied with anything. And it, on one hand, it's good to have that kind of mindset where you're always trying to pursue the next thing, but we never get to a milestone and we're like, yes, we've done it. You know what I mean? I don't think we've ever had, maybe we had an episode 100 celebration or something like that. I can't remember, but we might have talked about it a little bit. But for the most part, we just power through. You know what I mean? So I wanted to make sure that for episode 300, it's a pretty big milestone. 300 episodes. That's 300 hours minimum, probably more, way more, of our voices being shouted at people, of massive amounts of tangents, of web news, of, laughter, and of just a lot of web development information. Let's be serious. We just went through every single possible case of web development that could possibly have happened, as well as small business stuff. We've talked about a lot of shit on this podcast. And I wanted to kind of stop for a second. And Matt and I haven't planned this out fully, so we have a few things that we want to touch on. But for the most part, this is going to be a lot of riffing and a lot of us just kind of talking to each other back and forth. But I did want to kind of bring up, at least, let's talk about some of the personal highlights from the past 300 episodes, right? I'm thinking what really stands out to us now that we've reached this milestone, and what do we want to remember going forward, right? These are the things that continue to resonate with us. Yeah, power us moving forward. I think some of them are, positive things. Some of them are something that we were just kind of we redid or something like that. Anyway, there's just a lot that we've done in the history of HTML, the things that we can talk about. So Matt, I think I'm going to pass it off to you to kick us off. What's the first thing that kind of pops into your head for the past 300 episodes?
Well, I think the first thing for sure is that we had a lot of kind of questions, and even though you may not have seen too much change, we had a lot of questions in the planning of our episodes. And it goes all the way back to something as, small and rudimentary as, how do we label our episodes? What are the titles? Do we put the episode name in there? Do you not? These are small sort of crater level questions that you may be oh yeah, you just sort of do it and you sort it out. But, due to the algorithms and everything else out there, the SEO of things, if you will, you want to make sure that you get that stuff right. And so a lot of time was spent doing that. But what I really want to talk about is actually the renovation, if you will, of the segments of the show. So we've had various segments of the show. We used to have web news at the end of the show. And then we used to, more or less, we had full episodes. The full episodes were on a topic, roughly. And then we would have web news is roughly what we had. And there may be some mix of some other things in there, here and there. And then we had tidbits come out. And tidbits were shorter episodes that kind of were about, small specific topics. They were typically bonus episodes dropped on top of the regular weekly programming. So there was that. And then we had, what else? Then we also had different segments within the show. So we had weekly pain points, in which we talked about any sort of pain points we had during the week. And we took some user feedback on that. And it was sort of hey, this is kind of a weird way to start an episode where you're just sort of droning on about the negatives of your week. And that's kind of a weird way to just start out. You press play, and I get it. You press play on your commute or on your run or, whatever in your home to listen to the episode. And we're just kind of complaining. So it's okay, why don't we switch that to, what are you working on? And then we had this idea where, we're not a radio show, really. We're a podcast. And so we should, kind of really focus on the actual topic at hand. And that's what we've been doing for the past while now. And maybe there's there's like some variants where I'll do sort of the blind question episodes where I kind of interview Mike almost in a way about a something going on in the web development industry is typically what it is, and he's never seen the show notes, and there's a few things like that, but it's still all focused around, or at least we try to focus around the main podcast topic. Now that may change. Like we still have discussions on whether or not we should add segments like games or fun little things at the end or what have you. But one thing that we do struggle with is time. Once we do the prep for the actual main podcast topic, it's sort of like, okay, well, if we want to do a game or something, it has to be entertaining and it has to be good. Otherwise, people are just going to be skipping through to the end of the episode. Oh, the game started, I'm skipping through this, and then on to the rest of the episode. Or if it's at the end, they just sort of shut it off and stop listening. So that's something that it really stands out in my mind, is sort of the renovation of the show as time goes on. And again, even though it hasn't been like a major amount of renovations, it has been sort of like we've whittled down to this at this point, cut off a lot of the fat, and hopefully the episodes are more informative and more entertaining, I would hope, because it does offer, the lack of the additional parts offers the ability for us to tell stories, go through segments, and sort of have the conversation that you would expect from a podcast episode without worrying about us droning on for hours.
Yeah. I think we've limited the tangents. We still have them because I think it's still part of our personality, but we've limited like the off-topic tangents as much as we can. And I think the evolution of the show has been really interesting. I really like the blind episodes, by the way. I think we're going to probably do more of those. Maybe I'll have ones in reverse where I ask the questions to Matt and we can like take it from a different perspective. I think that makes sense. But yeah, like I think we've hit the nail on the head a few times in podcast formats. And yeah, I'm excited to see where we go next. And we might talk about a little bit like back and forth again about what we want with the rest of this episodes, like where we see this going. And just to be clear, Matt and I haven't like made a decision on anything. So it's going to be more of just like us discussing what we want. But on my end, for personal highlights, I think the number one highlight, the thing that stuck with me the most, is connecting with the community. I think when we started this podcast, my number one, and I think we talked about this, Matt, when we started it, was like we were feeling a little bit in like solo dev environment where we didn't have that like community of developers. We weren't working at traditional jobs. It was just Matt and I really after school, after we finished college, and just, solving problems, doing things for clients and stuff like that. We didn't have a network of developers we can go to ask questions. We didn't have a network of developers we can go to, just talk about the new technology that's coming out. And we were both at that time interested in the stuff that was going on. Like web development was this was, 4 or 5 years ago, but like web development was a very active place. It still is, but it was like forming that active environment at the time, that community. And we wanted to be part of it. And I think mission accomplished, I would say with that, like, this podcast has opened up doors that would have never been possible. The amount of times that I've, spoken to listeners that told me that, hey, this has helped me get into web development, or has helped me kind of, go from my traditional job of mowing lawns, shout out to Magnus, and then getting into, web development as a career. And he's been working as a web developer now for, I think, a year at least, or maybe more, professionally, and like huge. And there's stories like his all over the place where I get those comments, and they were from day one the thing that definitely makes me want to continue to do this. They don't happen super often, I want to be clear. Like, it's not something that, like, every day I get a bunch of comments about being like, okay, so thankful for you and all that. But they happen every once in a while, and they're amazing to hear. So any stories that you guys have, or gals, like, just send them out our way. We love to hear them. Sometimes we'll put them in the episodes as well. Like, sometimes we'll give you a shout out. But we want to know. We want to know how it's affected your lives, right? Like, we've been doing this for 300 episodes now. I know it's positively affected a good amount of people. So I want to continue doing that. Even if it's one person every month that is somehow affected by us riffing on a new web development topic, or standards and practices, or the things that we always talk about, 3 pillars, right? Like, that stuff seems to resonate with people. That's our own views. And Yeah, it's just been it's been amazing. Like I remember when we first started and those first few weeks or those first few episodes that we released into the void, as I like to say, like when you release a podcast when you're first starting out, you're releasing it into absolutely the void. No one's listening, right? Like you don't have a presence. Especially with us, like Matt and I weren't notable figures in the industry at the time, so we were releasing to no one. But somehow a few people did catch on. A few people did listen, right? Like we had like Sean from like Rabbitworks. We had Jeff that listened right away pretty much. We had like a good group, a small group of people that reached out to us immediately through Discord and were like, wow, like, thank you for doing this. Like, this is exactly what we wanted to listen to. And we immediately established a community. And that's, I mean, goal number one, the community establishment, was established within weeks of releasing the podcast, which I think was the thing that made us continue. If we didn't have that personally, like if those original OG Discord members weren't there, I have a feeling we might have fizzled. I don't know how you feel about that, Matt, but like that was the thing that kind of propelled me to continue doing this.
No, I'd agree, and I can see it just in my own habits. I know this just sounds like logistics or something, but I used to only use Discord to really specifically log in and talk to somebody. Like, hey, let's play a game. Hey, let's have a call. I'd boot up Discord and go. But when those days came up, it was Discord became something that I opened up right after my computer, finished booting, which is a huge thing. I don't even think I had Discord on my phone at the time. And I was like, oh, I'm having conversations with these people pretty consistently. I better have Discord available so that I don't leave them hanging for, more than a day type of thing, and get back to people and have a conversation. So as much as possible, obviously, sometimes you can't. But the point of the matter is it did change my behavior in that. And something that's, powerful enough to change, especially my behavior from a personal perspective, where I'm very sort of set in my ways with computers and how I use them, is a big thing. It's big enough to say, oh, okay, we have something here. And I agree with you, Mike. It was like a motivation, kind of like a bit of fuel on the fire, if you will, to say, oh, okay, these people actually care. They care enough to not only listen each week, but they're also reaching out to us. They're having conversations. And then some of them, like Magnus, we ended up working with him for a bit. And then he also ended up getting a job. So it's like, oh, okay, like this is a big thing, like this is a totally worthwhile thing. And we're actually are making, some form of impact, at least on some people. And, that's pretty good. And we've met, and, I know we only mentioned a few people, but there's been a few others that have, popped in, talked to us for a bit, and then kind of gone their merry way. And that's totally fine too. You don't have to sit there and talk to me all the time and type of thing. And, it's been great kind of talking to people, meeting. We even met a person or two here and there, kind of fans and stuff. And it's been pretty cool. So, for sure, it's definitely, it's tangible evidence is probably what we're kind of, what we could summarize this as is it's tangible evidence of our works. It's not just like, hey, we're getting 100 downloads, which is, great to see in an analytics panel. But I mean, outside of analytics, like these are real conversations we've had with people, and we've had some of these people on the show as well. So, there's a real tangible thing, and it ends up to, even more content creation, which is cool. For me, another thing I'd like to focus on, and this is something that the show kind of steered, but then it grew elsewhere, is technical SEO, or rather evolving beyond technical SEO. The show, because we were, questioning the titles, questioning the descriptions of the shows and that type of thing, really led me to go down the rabbit hole of SEO. And I already knew technical SEO pretty good because we do run a web development agency. And so we were doing websites for clients and obviously helping them with their technical SEO. But the majority, if not all of our clients at the time, had marketing people, whether an agency or in-house people, that would handle the SEO. They knew what they wanted as the titles and the descriptions and all that stuff. And so I was just there to sort of make sure that that they were being applied, right? Make sure you don't miss anything, etc. Make sure the CMS tells you, hey, you're missing an SEO description, those type of things, the technical side of the SEO. And I've evolved from that because of this show into learning actual SEO, where I'm now writing blog posts, reposting them. I've learned, canonical links and why that matters so much, and how to do keyword research, and I know, okay, DR is this, that's going to be difficult to get into these keywords, and the list goes on and on. I'm not going to, explain keyword research to everybody, but it's absolutely, something that is interesting. I also noticed that I write a lot better. I don't know if you agree, but I think so. And I find that my communications are much better, just with clients as well, because I've been writing, because I understand oh, wait, like me writing an absolute gargantuan email that has every detail in it is great sometimes. But instead of being so detailed, sometimes the person's just a little confused or, excuse me, they're not going to understand all the stuff right away. Like they're not a technical person. And so if I write 3 paragraphs, they're going to maybe if they even read all 3 paragraphs, they're going to, retain 2 sentences of it. And so I've changed. I actually record my screen now. I record my screen and say this to demo features, and I do more video things, more interactive things, more things that are marketing based because I've learned SEO. And it's like, oh, I need to be more direct. Like, for example, some of our best articles are me going after specific CSS scenarios. I don't know how to center text. I don't know how to center this. I don't know how to, instead of me being like the align property is an alignment property, and it is, those articles are important, but when people are searching, they want to quickly kind of solve. And so it's really changed how it really has changed how I communicate with people inside and outside of blogs. And as the added benefit is I now understand more of the sort of marketing side of SEO, and I have used it to our advantage. Like we do have some articles, some blog posts that have been doing well for over a year now. So the proof is in the pudding, if you will. It absolutely is the case, and that's a transferable skill I can sell now to people that want to get websites done by us.
Yeah, I think like the progression in our skills outside of development can be very much attributed to this project. Like the progression in presentation skills, obviously, like being able to talk on client calls, being able to talk on like lead a team, stuff like that. Like that, I attribute a lot of that to being able to do this. Right. Like I think we had a natural rapport initially, and that made this easier, but we weren't as good at this because Matt and I aren't in the same building doing this. We're on a Zoom call most of the time. Right. And that has its own challenges. Right. Like a lot of times when you're on a Zoom call, you don't have this, you're not in sync fully. It's a little bit easier to podcast in person. I know, Matt, you podcast in person for your other podcast, so you have a little bit more perspective on this. But overall, it's easier to podcast in person. We've had to like expand our skills to be able to do this remotely at all times, right? And that's been a big thing in being able to get on a Zoom call and riff, and being able to go do interviews, and being able to go and do like just any kind of calls with clients or anything that that make us sound like an authority, because we are in a lot of cases, and give confidence in our approach. Like anytime I have to sell something, I feel like this is the thing that's increased my skills to sell.
I 100% agree with that, because I've definitely sold people on features now better. Like I said, we run a web dev agency, and I still struggle with this, but I used to struggle a lot with getting people to come to my side, where I'd be like, hey, what you're doing, is not just, hey, I'm a lazy dev and I don't want to code it. You are not at your company scale going to be able to maintain this. I would fight that till I'm blue in the face. They would deny it. I'd spin up the feature and they wouldn't be able to do it. And it's just like, well, it's almost like someone told you, but you don't want to be sarcastic like that to a client. Of course, they don't know. So at the same time, I still struggle with that, as all web developers I'm sure do, but I have convinced many more people now, because I know, oh, okay, I should bring in a visual example here. I should, have an article or something written about this. Like, this is a problem that people are having. I should actually write an article. And I've actually written blog posts and sent it to clients, being like, oh, I actually have a guide written about how to do this. Here you go. Like, I don't have to tell you. I would just retype what I hear. Here you go. And it works. Like, it works. If people go look, they go, oh, okay, thank you. And that's it. And it's over. Right. And the blog post in that particular case is obviously from a trusted source. They've hired me for consulting and assistance and developing sometimes. And so it's like, okay, like, this guy, obviously I've hired him and he has a blog post. So here you go. So it adds to our authority and like, obviously the phrasing and the presentation of the ideas, like, absolutely, like, I come across as more authoritative. I think anyway.
Yeah, I think 100%. So the other thing that I kind of really liked about the podcast, and this was early on, I would say, and like we did a few episodes, but the David Lindahl series. So we did a series with a friend of the show, David Lindahl. He went through a boot camp, traditional web development boot camp, and we did a series. We did an episode with him post boot camp, I believe he was still looking for his first role or something like that. Like it was a very fresh perspective on that experience. Then after getting his first role and being there for a little while, we did another episode with him. And then we did another episode, I think 3 in total, where like he transitioned to a more senior role. I think it was a very unique perspective that someone can follow. I think we should link the series in the show notes, all 3 episodes, so that people can go and watch or listen to, because it's a really interesting perspective on how someone evolves as a developer. Now, he has more to the story that he hasn't told yet. So we're going to probably have another follow-up episode with him after, a couple of years of not updating. And that's a whole other interesting perspective as well. So like, it's just I think that was a unique thing. And to kind of jump to what I want to do for this podcast, I want more of that. I think I want more unique perspectives. I want more unique kind of twists on what we can do. Like, I want to think outside the box a little bit of podcasting and not just stick to the same script of discuss topic, and that's it. And I think we can do that. Like it's a little bit more difficult, obviously, and it's a little more creative, and we're not going to be able to do it every episode, but I want to sprinkle in some uniqueness, some interesting, something that people haven't heard before. And so stay tuned for that, I guess. I'm still thinking of ways to do that, but I have a few ideas.
Well, it also leads me to something that you and I have discussed, and like maybe the audience, today could even reach out and kind of discuss with this, is that sometimes our podcast episodes feel very lecture-y. Like, it'll be like a Matt heavy episode, a Mike heavy episode, and we'll kind of like talk. And we haven't like really kind of figured out a way to do it otherwise. Like, I feel as though like if I did the research, obviously I should be the one presenting it, and Mike will comment here and there, but it feels very much like a back forth. It doesn't feel very conversational. And we've had sort of the debate over, well, if it becomes conversational, is it as educational? Is it too dry because it's too lecture-y? We have that kind of push and pull, and we still struggle with that. Like, that is absolutely something that we struggle with, because I know that listening to other podcasts, not even coding ones, but just other podcasts in general, or specifically syntax, like I find syntax to be more conversational. And so it's like, oh, okay, well, Matt and Mike, like you both have to research this thing, but it's like, yeah, but like one thing pertains to my job. Mike and I have split responsibilities. So then it's kind of like, how do we logistically do this? Because even if it's a Matt heavy episode, I'm used to working with this software for say 100 hours. Mike comes in, he's going to read the marketing site. Like, what else is he going to do? Read the marketing site, maybe touch a little bit of the documentation, maybe at most sign up for the free trial and give it a try, right? Or ask me some questions. But like, you're still an outsider, right? Like, Mike is still an outsider to that. And so we have that sort of like weird, like, are our episodes enough? I guess there's something kind of thing where that is something that we still struggle with, for sure. Is, are we too lecture-y or not? So you, the audience, like listening to this right now, if you want to reach out, even like, post on our Discord, or like I said, like I'm on Threads and Instagram, and Mike runs the X / the Twitter, DM or, even post about it. I'm on LinkedIn as well, if you want to go on there. But yeah, like absolutely. Like we just want suggestions in that way, because that's like one big creative thing that we really do struggle with. And Mike's right. We can't do the unique stories every single week. We don't have the reach or the time. Like we're not like full-time podcasters, at least not yet, to the point where we can, constantly go out and source new material and research, people's stories and vet them and whatever. But like, absolutely, like some more creative episodes would be great. And having some episodes that are different, I think, is key as well. Like we have what I'm just going to call our lecture episodes, which are our normally scheduled programming, which now comes out on Tuesdays. But then now, if we have an interview episode, we release those on Thursdays. And it even has a little bit of different branding, like one's blue, one's purple, just for like some quick glanceability UX. And basically it allows you to go, oh, I don't like the interview episodes, I'm not going to listen to them in general, right? Like I've heard interviews, I don't like them. And it makes a clear distinction that this is not an interview show, right? It's still very much web development, learn web development, listen to the conversations about web development. But also we do have interviews, right? They're a little more creative. Some of them are marketing based. Some of them are UX based, UI based. Some are development based, of course. Some are creator based, etc. Like things that are around what we do. But again, you don't want to have, yet another interview show on your feed. We make that kind of clear distinction. And so all that kind of pools together with the sort of like, are our lecture articles or are our are our, I can't speak apparently, are our lecture episodes enough? So all that kind of like loops in.
Yeah, and I think like just to get to the maybe disappointment phase of this conversation or whatever, or the phase that we want to improve on would probably be more accurate. I think the thing that you mentioned, the non-conversational aspect of some of our episodes is a thing that I want to improve, and it's a difficult thing to improve because of the difficulty, like because of what you mentioned, like us not working on the same things all the time. I don't have a solution to that problem right now. I don't know how we can do that. The unique episodes will help. The more produced episodes would help too, but like Matt, like we don't have that much time. Like we're both kind of working full time outside of this on different things. So this is a very much a side gig for us. Like the HTML Things podcast specifically is very much a side gig. We can't spend, a significant amount of time producing an episode. We don't make like we have had sponsorships, which is amazing, and they have maybe covered our costs in terms of like our software that we use. I would say that those are covered. We don't have to worry about software costs. Maybe hosting costs are covered as well. But there's in no way, shape, or form are we paying ourselves for profits from this podcast, right? So it really is very much a passion project. We have to balance that aspect of it with the aspect of wanting to make it better and potentially wanting to make it more. So, right, like the conversation that we've had many times, Matt and I, was like, what's next for this podcast? Like, I would love to have the time to do full produced episodes that, touch on many different things where we're both in the same spot, both in the same mind space, and we can riff on it. That would be my end goal here. Like, I would love for us to be in that headspace and that time frame. Like we both have that time to be able to do that. Maybe that is a show that's, more sponsored here and there. Maybe that's a show that's helped. I don't know. I don't know the monetization aspect of it. Maybe it's like, the whole HTML Things brand is a way for us to monetize it. But we are actively thinking about ways to bring you, the audience, a better show, and for us to be able to focus on it without having to, find nickel and dime our time throughout the week to be able to produce it. Because it does take a lot of time. Like I don't want to understate how much time we do already put into it outside of our jobs. It's not like, hey, it's, just an hour of recording. Like you listen to an hour every week, but around that hour, Matt has to do a ton of editing. We have to do a ton of planning. One of us is writing show notes every other week. So that writing of show notes can take, some of them are fast. I'm not going to lie. Some of them can take like an hour. But some of them can take like 3, 4, 5 hours, depending on how complex it is. Absolutely. And yeah, we need to find that balance. And I want to be able to bring a more produced show where we have the time and we have the funding to be able to do that. It's just a challenge.
And we are working toward things as well. Like one thing that Mike and I have identified for sure is, our marketing, even though we've talked about SEO, to the 9 today, our marketing isn't the greatest at the moment. And what I mean by that is like a lot of other shows will constantly be in your face, not spamming, but like when you log into LinkedIn or whatever, like any sort of popular podcast or website has, posts kicking around. And even if those posts don't do that well, it's a constant reminder that they're there, they're ready to be listened to, and that they're a resource that you can use, and you may reach for them when the time comes that you need them. For us, the problem is sometimes I'll just barely get the episode made, actually edited, uploaded, and then scheduled. And then the next day when it comes out, I don't market it at all. I don't post about it at all because I'm super busy having pushed back something else for a client that I now am hardcore working for on a client. And then sometimes I'll look at the clock and be like, I'll just be like, hey, it's the end of the day. I'm going to go and publish the episode. And I look at the clock and it's like 4 a.m. And it's like, well, I'm not going to post at 4 a.m. Like it's ridiculous that way. Like just yesterday, I was up trying to help somebody with like a technical blow up till 3 a.m. This is the tech field. Like things do blow up. And even though we mitigate that as much as you can, things do blow up, or, organization or communications break down, and then things blow up as a result of that. Normal working environment, I suppose you could say. But it's just, yeah, it is a matter of it being problematic. However, Mike and I are working on a lot of things. And it's slow progression, mostly just because we have this sort of thing that Mike and I do where we go, okay, we should make some money, from the agency. So we'll put some time into the agency. We'll get some new clients or something. We'll go do that. Because we did that, HATT kind of falls off a little bit and it plateaus or goes down a bit. So you're like, oh, shoot. So then we like kind of get rid of some clients or more or less finish some projects. So you finish some projects and then, okay, let's put some more time into HATT. You put more time into HATT. Then you do that for a couple months and you're like, oh, I should probably make more money. And you have this like constant back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But what we're working toward is like, I am working to make the HATT website something that is, something to be proud of. Have a lot of guides on there, have a lot of resources on there. We have a writer, contributing author, Michael LaRocca. We've, give him a shout out on the regular episodes, our regular scheduled programming. And, he's helped us, write an article every other week approximately and come up with some cool ideas. Like it was his idea to marry the interviews with a companion article and kind of have like a big almost expose day is what I call it, where you kind of have this like big bunch of content hit the site and it's, the fans of, enter in influencer that we're interviewing here, not only get an audio podcast interview with them, but they're also getting a nice big, chunk of like, here's what you can learn from this episode. Here's what we talked about. And if you want to learn more about, small business or whatever the person was talking about, then these are what, the topics that Michael LaRocca has talked about. Like with Kevin Powell, he's, obviously discussing CSS and those type of things. And so like that's a great idea. And I do enjoy that. And we've done, I think 3 or 4 of those so far. And that's like that's an idea of like, something that if we were going to spend more time on HATT sort of full time, which is sort of the goal. I think the end goal is eventually to be HATT full time, at least in my opinion. That's the idea. It would, it's going to take a lot more. It's not good enough that we just barely get the episode out and then disappear for 2 weeks and then come back. There's so many holes in our marketing. If you just go to our LinkedIn page, you could see how many episodes I've missed writing, and it's just a social post. But here's the thing is sometimes I'm literally gone for 12 hours, right? Mike's gone for 12 hours. Like, what do you do at that point, right? It's just the struggle. But the goal overall is that HATT will, slowly but surely take over more and more of our time and then eventually become, a full-time gig, or maybe the other stuff will become part-time and it's our full-time gig, whatever, right? That type of thing. We're working on the balance and we're trying to push toward HATT more. So that's hopefully something to look forward to. We're writing more, doing more stuff. And behind the scenes, like I have a CSS guide that's almost ready to come out as of now, just as of today, not as of when you're listening to this, but as of the day of recording. We just released another Michael LaRocca piece on the site as well, as you can go check that out. So that's where we're at. Like we're constantly pumping things out. It's not just the episode. It's just the I don't know, work-life balance, but it's like work balance, I guess, is really the struggle for us.
Yeah. Yeah, there is no work-life balance right now. It's just work balance. It's a good way to put it. Yeah, I think we're aligned on the goals. Like I want to make something else clear. Like I really like working in the tech industry. Like I've been working at my current role for the past year now, and it's been great. Like I love doing what I'm doing, like which is essentially being a developer and managing developers. But the reality is that like that can change at any moment. Like who knows what's going to happen next year? Who knows what's going to happen in 6 months? Matt and I have been through it all. Like we've been through layoffs. We've had clients,
explode,
cut us out. We've had clients explode. We've had clients just dissolve into nothing. Like every possible scenario of, from success to failure has happened to us now. Like we've been at this for almost 10 years. We've seen it all. So the reality is like diversification and being able to be the one that controls your destiny, right? Being able to be the people that actually like, if I fail, I fail. Like this is on us. Like this podcast is on us. It's not on X client or X, employer or Y employer. Like it's not on them. This is on us. If we make it successful, it's on us. If it fails, it's on us. At least it's something that we control, because a lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times the stuff that happens to us is out of our control, which sucks. And that's the reality for most people working in the industry, in any industry. When you get laid off, it's out of their control. It's out of no matter how good of an employee you are, the company can still fail and you can still be laid off, or the company can just restructure. It doesn't even have to fail. The company can be like, you know what? We need to be a little bit more lean here. We need to try to hire new people. Let's lay off 10%, and you could fall in that 10%. And it could be just because you just a random roll of the dice, whatever. So the fear that I always have in the back of my mind no matter what I'm doing. And it's not really a fear. It's like a realization and a knowledge is that I'm not in control of my income. So the big thing with HATT is I want to have it to a point where it becomes the thing that we control in terms of income.
Yep.
And
as much as you can.
Exactly. If we have clients, it's outside of the scope of the fact that we could be putting that time into the income. So the clients would have to be in a very different state, in a different like level, essentially, that would make sense for us to go after them. But for the most part, we would be putting time and effort into our own thing, and we would be in control. So that's the goal, really. Like, it's not about, at least for me, it's not about like the fact that I don't like working with people. I do. It's just no matter what the situation is, I have to look ahead, and HATT is the thing that I see ahead of me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if I want to call it pipe dream. It's because we're doing it, but it's like a pipe dream that you're doing, that you're actually working towards. It's not just, the light at the end of the tunnel that never comes. It's actually something that we're trying to push towards and are pushing towards, slowly but surely. And, it has its ups and downs and stuff and whatever. Like I said, like when clients explode, like we've been there when I say explode, I mean, their company, like not like literally, but figuratively detonates. It goes all over the place, and then it's just like, what do we do? Well, we have $15 budget. That's like, well, I'm not going to work for $15 for a whole friggin' year. Like, what's going on here? And then it's like, well, how do we shut down? And then like they're tied into us, and we have licenses, and they're trying to like claw back, and like they don't know what the heck's going on, and it's like chaos on their side. So as a result, it's chaos for us. And just today, like we've had like another client situation, which I'm not going to divulge details. We had to get another client situation where it's a whole blow up, and it's like, okay, is this person is this? And like it's the tech field, it's the communication field, it's humans, it's messy, of course. Like that's just the way it is. But we've seen a lot of it. And then, I mean, we've seen a pandemic now and see what that does to businesses and see what happens to them. And they, slowly but surely, sadly disappear. A bunch of them did. And so a lot of our, I guess you could call them legacy clients, are gone. Like those businesses are defunct. Some people were close to retirement and they're just like, COVID's here. I'm not struggling through this. I'm retiring now. Smart choice financially, I would assume, for them. So they're gone. We've seen a lot of stuff. And, hopefully that experience like carries us through to really like kind of push HATT to the next level.
I'm excited. Honestly, I'm excited for HATT. I'm excited for where we want to go with this, our focus on it. I think it's only gotten better over the years, and the community that we've generated around it is the thing that really drives us still. So thank you to you listening to this. You listen to all of our episodes, or some of our episodes, or one of our episodes. I'm assuming you're listening to this because you've listened to a significant amount of HTML the things. Otherwise, this wouldn't be very interesting to you. So thank you. It's because of you that we're doing this. We want to help as much as we can because we've been through a lot and we didn't have the help. So we want to be that help for other people, and we want to get better as well. So one last call out I want to do is, if you're on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at HTML Everything, I manage that account. Message me, tag me, whatever you want to do. I check all my DMs. I will respond if you're talking about the podcast for sure. Any sort of suggestions you have, any positive criticisms, anything that's helped you, I'd love to hear it. And yeah, like just if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them as well. So that would be it on my end. I think I'm excited for the next 300.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I think we'd like to take this time just to announce some stuff that we are actually in the process of doing for the people. One thing is we are looking at upgrading our branding. So we are looking at taking a look at the fact that we've had the same branding for quite a while, logos and all that stuff. And we've had some community members, of course, give us some assets and help with that, which is great. But we're going to try to get like a new logo going and stuff like that. So we're looking into doing that. Well, more than looking in, we're actually inquiring now with companies that do that type of thing. And then also with Google Podcasts going away, or maybe it's already gone, whatever status that's in, we have also launched on YouTube Music. Now you may see some episodes appear, disappear, and then come back. We're currently experimenting with their RSS feature, which I personally think is a little messy, and I've complained about that on Threads. I personally think it's a little messy on the YouTube side of things. So we're also have like an automatic audiogram generator, putting it in, and we're experimenting with which one to sort of release. So you may see some wishy-washiness there I mean, actually, you almost most definitely will see some wishy-washiness there, just because I'm not super happy with their implementation. But if you're like, I want to listen to this on YouTube Music, we're working on making that a reality, and you can listen to some episodes on there already, 1 or 2 episodes so far. And the older episodes are also on our channel that I'm going to try to shimmy into that implementation if I can. We're at 300 episodes, folks, so we have a lot of like data entry to deal with and a lot of stuff to do with the YouTube launch. But yeah, go check us out on YouTube Music if that's your app of choice, of course. But all the other feeds are all the same, and there's no changes in that regard. I think that's it. I think that's the wrap up, the goods, the bads, the goals, the highlights, the sads, the balance. I don't know. Give me more descriptors, Mike. The HTML-ness. All right, we're gonna end it on that.
Yeah, the JavaScriptiness, the sveltiness. I don't know, something. We've done a lot. 300 episodes. 300 episodes. The 300 episodeness. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a crazy ride, and hopefully you've enjoyed it so far. And if you're just tuning in now, and we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming next week. This is obviously a special Saturday release, just to sort of cap off the week, because it's the week of the 300th. And thank you for being here. That's it. That concludes this special. We're not doing Patreon spots or anything because it's not a regularly scheduled programming thing. And we're just going to sign right off.
Goodbye.
Go to htmlthings.com. Go check it out. Goodbye.